What if the only undefeated juggernaut in the league could be toppled in just 38 seconds? That's all it took for Caitlin Clark to turn the New York Liberty's perfect season into dust. 3 logo bombs, 9 points, and an arena that felt like it might collapse from the noise. One moment the champs led by 11, the next they stared at a scoreboard that suddenly read even, and a crowd roaring as if the trophy had been handed out right then and there. The Liberty spent a month rolling through opponents like they were speed bumps. But on June 14, the script flipped so violently, it left fingerprints on every record book in the building. The shockwave started weeks earlier, when Clark limped off the floor with a strained quad the Liberty themselves had helped inflict. 5 games passed. 5 games she could do nothing but watch, and the whispers grew louder with every fever stumble. Is that first step burst gone? Can a logo shooter trust her lift after a leg injury? Should Indiana risk a rushed return? The champs certainly weren't waiting around for answers. They piled win on win until the standings looked like a solo column under undefeated. Talk shows began penciling in a wire-to-wire title run, while Clark iced and visualized and told anyone who asked, "If I'm not full speed, I'm not suiting up." Game day finally landed, and Gainbridge Fieldhouse vibrated like a drum. Every seat vanished hours before tip. Viewers at home set the network's second highest audience ever for a regular season broadcast. Courtside mics caught Liberty players joking about rust and minutes limits. Clark jogged through warm-ups with a grin that looked a little too calm for someone facing the hottest defense in the sport. Somewhere in the building, somebody must have felt the tension twist, because the moment the ball went up, it seemed obvious this wouldn't be routine. New York opened like champions. Sharp cuts, switching defenses, an 11-point cushion before the popcorn cooled. But Clark kept probing, eyes darting, reading angles only she can see. Then, with 2 minutes left in the first, she crossed half-court, stopped 34 feet from the rim, and launched a moonshot that splashed as cleanly as a layup. The roar hadn't finished echoing when she did it again, this time from 31 feet on the opposite wing. Heads turned, mouths opened, but the Liberty still led. So she crossed once more, hesitated, and fired a third missile that barely disturbed the net. 9 points in 38 seconds. Lead vaporized. Tie game. That mini flurry didn't merely swing momentum, it cracked the Liberty's aura. Brianna Stewart, usually stone-faced, could only smirk in disbelief. Sabrina Ionescu glanced at the bench for a timeout that never came fast enough. In an eye blink, the champs looked human, and the fever smelled it. Clark's barrage flooded the building with electricity. Teammates fed off the surge like batteries snapping into place. Indiana never trailed again. By halftime, Clark had stacked 25, the largest half of her pro career, and the fever held a slim edge. But the records were just stretching awake. She finished with 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, and 7 made threes. Numbers that rewrote 8 separate league marks. Fastest to 850 career points. First player ever with that 38-9+7 combo. And elite past Candace Parker for most 35-5 games in a sophomore season. All of it in 31 minutes, fresh off rehab. Yet, this was no solo act. While Clark bent New York's defense to breaking, her supporting cast slammed the door. Kelsey Mitchell poured in 22, 10 of them in the closing quarter when the Liberty threatened to push. Aaliyah Boston hammered out a bruising double-double, dishing dimes from the high post like a point center and bodying Jonquil Jones off her spots. Lexi Hull drilled a career-high 14 on near-perfect shooting, each corner 3 a dagger in the Liberty's rotations. Sophie Cunningham returned from her own injury, posted a +31, and devoured loose balls with the hunger of someone who missed the party last week. Even veteran Sydney Colson flashed vintage composure, directing traffic while Clark caught breath, then zipping backdoor feeds that ignited a 17-0 run. The stat sheet at night's end was almost comic. 17 fever triples, most in franchise history, on 48% accuracy. 25 assists on 37 makes, the first time all season New York surrendered triple digits. Defensively, Indiana jammed the Liberty's vaunted pick and roll, switched early to cut off backdoor looks, and met Stewart at the elbow with 2 bodies instead of 1, daring secondary shooters to beat them. They couldn't. When the buzzer landed, the scoreboard read 102-88. The champs' perfect run lay in shards, their 9-game streak buried by a team everyone had labeled too young, too thin, too reliant on a single star. The Fever didn't merely win. They handed the rest of the league a blueprint. Run shooters in waves, punish every switch, trust your spacing, and let Clark's gravity stretch the floor until the defense finally snaps. But the deeper takeaway hid between those bulletproof numbers. Quad strain? Gone. Minutes restriction? Laughed off. Rust? Never stood a chance. Clark's performance proved her ceiling hadn't just survived the injury, it had lifted. Her release looked quicker, her reads sharper, her willingness to pull from the parking lot somehow even less hesitant. She showed a champion's memory. She remembered exactly where New York hurt her 3 weeks earlier, and she stormed straight at that spot until the wound belonged to someone else. The ripple effects were immediate. Indiana vaulted to first in the Commissioner's Cup standings. Power rank panels shuffled overnight. Commentators who'd penciled a Liberty coronation shoved rewrites into teleprompters. Most telling of all, the viewership that sagged when Clark was sidelined roared back to record levels, underlining a hard truth. The league's spotlight follows her every step, and she just shone it directly in the defending champion's eyes. Now the question stretches beyond one statement game. Can the Fever bottle this version of themselves for an entire season? Can the Liberty recalibrate before the July rematch in Brooklyn? And will any defender dare give Clark those extra inches of space between half-court and the logo ever again? Whatever answers emerge, one fact feels permanent. A 38-second hailstorm ripped the safety net off 20205's title race. And nobody, including the champs, is safe from the next burst. So here we stand, the undefeated toppled, the record smoking, and a blueprint pinned to every locker room wall. The Fever didn't just steal a win. They announced a new order: play fearless, play fast. And the moment you think you've solved Caitlin Clark, remember how long it takes her to score 9 points.